there and welcome back to some more Grand Theft Auto Vice City. Today we're continuing on Let's Play. This is episode 10. In today's episode we are taking a look at the vehicle missions here on the East Island. There are 4 of them, 2 of them involving actual drivable vehicles and then 2 of them involving RC vehicles. The first of which is the PCJ Playground, which tasks you with collecting 24 checkpoints in 2 minutes for a $1,000 reward. This one is moderately difficult, or it can be. There's a few nice little caveats the game gives you. For one, the timer does not start until you hit the first checkpoint, which is nice. That means that you can sort of spend your time on this one. It's more sort of about precision driving mixed with being able to effectively get the checkpoints. Precision and speed, essentially. Especially the last few checkpoints, I'll point out when the difficult bits are, but it is moderately difficult. Thankfully, you do not have to, you do not get a mission failed if you end up leaving the PCJ 600, unlike you would in, say, GTA 3 when you left the cars for some of the off-road missions. In this game, no such thing with the PCJ, which is good because it's a bike. Which does mean stability is limited, as you can sort of see there. I do not have a flawless run on this one, but I did manage to complete it first time round, so... yeah, the time limit is... It seems a little bit daunting at first, 24 checkpoints in 2 minutes, but it's actually not too bad once you work it out. Also, you might notice, as I said in the previous video on unique stunt jumps, you can see quite a few of the stunt jumps in this side mission. So, if you have not hit them, at this point, this is also a good time to do that, a little bit of extra cash as well. A lot of it does focus around the Ocean Beach alleyway, although this bit right here is where stuff starts getting interesting. Essentially, you need to be able to perform the stunt jump, which we showed last time round with the pay and spray, and that means you do not take the route which the game tries to get you there. It sort of lulls you into full sense security, that checkpoint there. And then the next ones, what you actually need to do is come into this alleyway to get a little bit of a run up, just to make sure you can both jump that Corona and also have enough speed to get onto the apartment. I just about saved it there. That was about as lucky as you could get. I'd recommend going all the way down to the bottom of the alleyway, and that's how I would do it personally. But yeah, a rather difficult stunt jump. Do make sure you have a decent amount of health as well, just in case you do fall off the bike. But it can be done in the end. The second vehicle mission, thankfully, is a hell of a lot easier and a hell of a lot more exploitable. This is Cone Crazy. You can find it on the rooftop here of this Ocean Beach car park. Simply approach the Stallion on the top floor, which you can see. Obviously, I'm just going to show it on the map here, just so you know where it is, although you can't really get a good view of it on the actual main menu map. Again, simply jump into the Stallion and you will engage Cone Crazy. Now, one thing I will recommend to you is you follow the route that I'm about to show in the video here, because, again, this one is one that can be exploited. The reason it can be exploited is very simple. You get $200 for completing this side mission, which does not sound like a lot. However, every time you beat your time on this side mission, it doubles and doubles and doubles. And anyone that knows Vice City knows that eventually this mission can end up with an insane payout. Essentially, each time you hit a checkpoint, it gives you a good couple of seconds, I can't quite remember how many, up to a maximum of 6. And then once it gets to 6 seconds, then essentially you just only get 6 seconds to hit every checkpoint. And I'll show you sort of the way to do the exploit in a later video later on, where I show some safe house buying on the East Island. But as you can see here, I'm just going to wait for the timer to tick down to 1 second so that I can exploit this later on. You can make crazy amounts of money doing this if you get the exploit right on this one, which honestly I don't even think I've ever got it right as this, but I've managed to make $6-7 million just from doing this one side mission, and you can do it straight from the start of the game as well, so something worth bearing in mind. Next up, we move on to our RC vehicle races, one involving the Bandit, which is a remote control car, and one involving the Baron. Firstly, for the Bandit race, you need to come here and find the Top Fun van on the beach. Now, one interesting fact to note, on the PS4 version, which is the one I'm playing, the van does not seem to spawn for some reason. So you need to go and get a Top Fun van from elsewhere, namely the RC Baron race, which I'll show in a second, which is on top of the Vice Point Mall. Simply take the Top Fun van from there and then just sort of watch a video to figure out where the spawn point is. You can't really get a good idea of it from my video, unfortunately, but just keep slowly maneuvering the van around where you think the spawn point is, and eventually the side mission will just trigger. So a little bit awkward again on every other version of the game as far as I'm aware. The Top Fun van on the beach spawns just fine, but for whatever reason on the PS4 version it doesn't, which is a bit of a shame because it's by far and away probably the hardest Top Fun van to find in the game. But once you do, you are treated to a nice little race here on the ocean, on the Washington beach. I mean, we are quite near Vice Point here, so I guess it's more the Vice Point beach side, top end of the beach, northern beach. I don't know why I'm trying to think of a million names for this. The beach racetrack. Essentially, you get to drive around the beach racetrack in the RC Bandit. This can be a bit of a nightmare of a vehicle mission. In all honesty, it's probably the hardest of the bunch. The RC Bandit is not a particularly good vehicle to drive at the best times. It's very twitchy, very weird to get used to sort of the dimensions of it, so on, and you have to use it in a race on a track which is very bumpy, and one that's yeah, it can really bounce the car around if it needs to. So yeah, it can be a little bit awkward. Thankfully you can't collide with the other racers, which is definitely a bonus. That means you can't be spun out or anything of the sort, which would make this mission really irritating. But yeah, just you might need a few practice attempts at this one to get it bang on. If you aren't going for 100%, I don't recommend this one because you only get $100 from finishing it, so not really worth it. I don't know if it doubles if you beat your best time or anything like that, but even still, Cone Crazy can do the same thing, so there's no real point of doing this one, particularly unless you are going for the full 100%. Yeah, probably the least fun of all of the RC missions, I believe. In the vehicle missions in general, you get to drive all three variants of the RC cars, and each has a mission designed around it. So of course we have the Bandit race here, you'll see the Baron race in a second, which is the plane, and then there's also one for the Goblin, which is the helicopter. So yeah, this one probably the worst of the bunch, in all honesty, to drive around in, but eventually you should be able to pull it off. And again, as I said, $100 for finishing that one, and thankfully you never really have to drive the RC Bandit ever again, which is good. Our final vehicle mission for today, and again another remote control missions, takes place on top of the Vice Point car park. There's a theme with car parks in these last two episodes, and it actually continues slightly onto the next one. But yes, simply approach the top end of the Vice Point Mall car park. This should be a pretty iconic location to pretty much anyone who's ever played this game. The Top Fun van right on top, and yeah, then you get to start the RC Baron race, which again, another race involving 3 opponents as you drive a remote control car, and again you're collecting checkpoints through Vice City. Thankfully, this one does not involve laps, however it also can be a little bit awkward. So let's go ahead and get into it. The other planes do accelerate a lot quicker, and the RC Baron to fly is interesting. Certainly this game's plane physics are not something it's well renowned for. I find the Baron seems to just like randomly flying like straight up, so the way I figured out to do this is to basically hold down the accelerator and then occasionally bash the left analog stick downwards just so the vehicle would be able to get through the checkpoints. It is a little bit of an awkward thing to fly, but once you get a hang of it, this race actually isn't too bad. The one nice thing with the AI is they are pretty slow when it comes to this race, unlike in the RC Bandit race when they're actually quite competent, and having an accident can often spell the end of your race. In this one, you can have an accident. In fact, I get into a quite nasty accident later on, involving a lamppost, I believe, and come back to finish the mission. So yeah, this one again can be awkward. Driving all these remote control cars in Grand Theft Auto games has always been a nightmare. I do kind of miss the Grand Theft Auto 3 ones where you just had to destroy a certain number of gang cars. For whatever reason they decided to not bring those back and have actual RC races, which I guess is more realistic at the cost of being less fun. And again, the nice thing with the RC side missions in GTA 3 is you only need to destroy one gang car. But as you can see, I have a pretty nasty accident with a lamppost there. I don't actually know if you can destroy the Baron by crashing into things. The Bandit, I know you can't. In fact, I crashed into 2 lampposts, even worse. Yeah, this is a pretty traumatic accident. Again, trying to get enough speed to get this thing to take off again. A little bit of a nightmare. You can see my atrocious RC skills here. Although thankfully you can hit the checkpoint right on the ground, which is nice. But as you can see, I eventually managed to get it flying again, and the AI are only just behind me. So yeah, again, they're not massively competent in the RC Baron race, which is nice. Unlike the Bandit race, this one isn't so much of a nightmare to pull off, but it's still not much fun. Again, if you're not going for 100%, this is a pretty vile way to make $100. There's much better ways. There's Cone Crazy, which gives you double this and also the potential to gain a hell of a lot more than that. So doing this race makes no sense whatsoever, but it is available. It's also longer maybe than the Bandit race. They're both about 2.5 minutes. This one thankfully does not involve any laps, and once you get relatively near your safe house, it collects your $100 check, and then you can drive your top fun van away, and that's the end of the vehicle mission. So there you go, there's all 4 of them for the East Island completed. Join me next time. We're going to be taking a look at another side mission. The next time around, taking a look at the rampages on the East Island, which involve a hell of a lot more killing, which is more like it. So join us for that. Thank you all very much for watching, and until then, farewell.
You know what I'm saying. The sorrow that my heart holds in, knowing just where my hopes and dreams are going. I won't let you back. Got up in a war that you are not part of. Eyes on the slit of your father.